stop criminalizing homosexuality.
Under the Trump administration, your government will pay for all costs associated with IVF treatment.
Are there any states where women face prosecution for having an abortion?
No.
If you're someone that voted for Kamala Harris, I applaud you for being here and watching this video. Whether you stumbled upon it on YouTube or someone sent this to you or you saw it on a story, thank you for having the patience and the openness to watch a video like this. Clearly I'm black, so I feel like I can talk about being black in America from my own lived experience. And I'm also gay, so I feel like I can talk about the LGBTQ community, again, from a lived perspective. Throughout my entire life, I have been subject to different forms of racism or homophobia and even homelessness. I have been called the N-word by some random white stranger. I have been assaulted just for merely existing for being gay. I've even watched my mom's car get repossessed out the window as we share a bunk bed in a family friend's house. I've dealt with depression, I've been through conversion therapy, and I've had a lot of close calls, if you get what I'm saying. I've even been down to the BLM rallies crying my eyes out because I didn't like the way I felt being black in America and that my life was at harm for merely existing. So the pain you may be feeling right now or that others are experiencing right now, it's valid. And I do believe it, and it is sincere. Needless to say, I have gone through a lot in my life, and I share empathy for those with the same lived experience and beyond. Regarding the 2024 election, I've gone to Kamala events, I've gone to Trump events, and I've definitely learned a lot, especially the last few years, and my mind has just really been expanded and opened up. But again, all for good reason. In this video, we're going to discuss why I'm personally not afraid of a Trump presidency, and why you shouldn't either. We're going to discuss the several topics and fears that I've seen being laid out since President Trump won the election. As we navigate through this video, I urge you to please suppress the idea of misogyny, racism, homophobia, transphobia, the list goes on. Just for the sake of right now in this video and hearing the other side out, because again, every single race, identity, sex has voted for Trump. So to sit here and move through this video and call millions of black people racist, Hispanic people racist, gay people homophobic, trans people transphobic, and women misogynistic, it doesn't hold up. And there's clearly more to this conversation about Trump's character, the Republican Party, how many independents voted for him. There's clearly way more context that's going into this Trump campaign that I personally feel like those more aligned to the left just haven't seen or are understanding. And before we get started, it is important to note that in 2016, when President Trump won his first election, Trump had the presidency, the Republicans had the House, and Republicans had the Senate. And not everything was passed or, not everything came to fruition that Trump wanted to do. So needless to say, that may happen again now. So we don't have to fear that just because Republicans have all this control, that every single thing is going to get done, because more than likely than not, it's not. Because I just mentioned, we've already lived through a Trump presidency and you were fine. I was fine. Everybody was fine. And the world goes on. This country has been through slavery. It's gone through the world wars. It's gone through so many different transformative periods. And the next 4 years is not going to be the end all be all. You're stronger than that. We are all stronger than that. And I also feel it's important to highlight my bias as we move through this video for the main purpose of being super transparent with you and open about me coming into this video with good faith. As of the last few years, I admittedly lean more right on a lot of different topics, but to maintain that I stay middle ground, that I stay open, that I stay independent, I do utilize a tool called Ground News. Ground News is essentially an aggregate of all the news, and it gives you really cool tools to understand what's really going on in the mainstream media. So for example, I'll pick this story right here. You can clearly see what is the left saying, what is the center saying, and then what is the right saying. So you can accurately say, how is the right spinning this and how is the left spinning this? Over here on the side, you have the total news sources, how many are reporting on this that are left, that are right, that are center. You can see the bias distribution. You can toggle between all of the articles on the left, all the articles on the right. You can sort by bias, location, factuality rating. It gives you so many tools so that you can accurately see the news from a clear lens. And they've been a long time sponsor of this channel, so if you'd like to get involved, be sure to tap the link below or scan the QR code here on the screen. Something else that is important to note, that up here in this corner, this extends past the United States. You can click this here and you can go between US, international, UK, Canada, and Europe. So you can always get the news that matters to you. And my favorite part about Ground News is a feature called Blind Spot. And you can quickly see what is the left not talking about, but the right is. And on the other side, you can clearly see what is the left talking about, but the right isn't. So you can always see and get rid of that media biases, because Ground News is subscriber funded. Everything is funded by the users, whereas mainstream media corporations, they're funded by advertisers. They're funded with different motives to push people a certain way. But with Ground News, they have no initiative to do that. It's all just subscriber funded. So that's one of the many reasons why I do love Ground News, because I do feel like whether you're on the left, the center, the right, it doesn't matter. This is a very clear and empowering place to get the news. So again, if you want to get involved, you can tap the link below or scan the QR code here on the screen. And right now, Ground News is offering the best deal of the year for a limited time only. You can get 50% off the Vantage plan for unlimited access to Ground News, which is the one that I use that lets you unlock all the cool features that we go through in my videos. So again, that is ground.news. You can scan the QR code here on the screen or tap the link below to take advantage of this limited time offer, 50% off the Vantage plan right now. Women's rights. Introduced to a Democrat-controlled presidency, House, and Senate, the Freedom of Choice Act was a bill that aims to protect a woman's right to choose whether to terminate a pregnancy. I mean, the bill was written so good that all the Democrats are rallying behind it, and even President Obama was campaigning behind it and saying, yeah, when I get into office, I'm going to sign the Freedom of Choice Act.
What would you do at the federal level, not only to ensure access to abortion, but to make sure that the judicial nominees that you will inevitably be able to pick are true to the core tenets of Roe v. Wade?
Well, the first thing I'd do as president is sign the Freedom of Choice Act.
A few moments later.
Freedom of Choice Act is not my highest legislative priority.
In 2008, Democrats had control of everything, and they did nothing regarding Roe v. Wade. They actually even ignored acts to help protect it. And for 8 years, a Democrat, Obama president, he was president for 8 years, did nothing regarding the protection of women's rights that I'm hearing so much about, that Kamala Harris is going to be able to do, and that the Democrats are rallying about. And even Obama himself was talking about this entire summer as if he didn't turn it down. Genuinely, I don't mean this from aha or like, it's sad. It's frustrating. You've been manipulated. You've been lied to, and you're being taken advantage of for votes. That is the only way I can put it, when this entire summer, and I'm gone to this Kamala rally, and I'm hearing for freedom of my body and reproductive rights and abortion this, abortion that. Y'all were given every opportunity to protect this, and you went against the Democrats and you didn't do it. Again, I this isn't to say that Republicans are high almighty and Trump is in the clear. What I am saying is that politics suck, one, but two, the Democrats, they're manipulating you. They keep giving you all this false hope, and they had every opportunity to do something to protect women's rights, and they didn't. The same way that I was personally manipulated to feel a certain way about being a black man in America to get me to vote a certain way is the same way you are being manipulated and lied to about the promises that the left tries to make about reproductive rights and to protect women's rights, when after 8 years as president, nothing was done. I mean, I'm not even kidding when I tell you that I genuinely thought that thousands of young black men who look just like me, aged just like me, were getting shot and killed by the police every single year, because I was going to the BLM rallies and I'm seeing all the crime online, and I'm hearing how many injustices we face, when after a 30-second Google search, what you'll find out is that more people are getting struck by lightning than black unarmed men are getting shot by the police. Is it still bad? For sure. But the sheer amount of anxiety and depression about merely existing because of who I am that was uplifted off my shoulders when I realized that it's monumental. I'll never forget that moment, because again, I was manipulated and fed all these ideas of what it's like to be a black man in America, and that was just constantly in my head and on CNN and on Twitter and in my friend groups. But after a Google search, I realized that what I thought was reality was not at all, and I was being used and manipulated off of my fear. And honestly, the same can be said for millions of women out there right now who have only digested news that is mainly on the left regarding their rights.
Tackler, just to clarify on this, are there any states where women face prosecution for having an abortion?
No.
Are there any states that criminalize miscarriage?
No.
Or the care for a miscarriage?
No.
Are there any states that criminalize removing an ectopic pregnancy?
No.
Are there any states that prohibit life-saving care for the mother?
No.
Are there any states where women have to be actively dying for a doctor to be able to act for her care?
No.
There's been a lot of rhetoric in this that I'm concerned pushes people away from getting access to health care. Vice President Harris, in a speech recently, said that women were being arrested and facing prosecution for experiencing miscarriages. Ms. Sackler, do you know of a single instance where a woman has been arrested for having a miscarriage or getting health care for that?
No, treatment for miscarriage is allowed under the law, and there have been instances where I think that one example of that that's been pointed to is misleading, because the woman, I think she was in Ohio, the charges against her were not abortion related.
That is the truth. That is what's going on right now in our nation. And there are people pushing out lies, and there are people dying because of these lies. Are there women who have died since Roe v. Wade has been overturned? Yes. But even before Roe v. Wade was overturned. If you look into each of these cases, and I'm not trying to discredit their harm and their story, but there is something to be said for medical malpractice. All of these cases, when I was in that field listening to these women's stories and watching them cry, in my head, I'm thinking to myself, this is literally just medical malpractice. This is wrong. And I couldn't draw a correlation to Roe v. Wade other than a bunch of doctors refusing to do miscarriage care. And not because the law preventing them, but because they're scared to do something because of a law, when all they have to do is just look into the law. There are a bunch of women, and I know personally in my life, who have gone through the same identical cases as these women in Texas, or as these women who have been dealing with these issues, and they've been fine. A miscarriage is a miscarriage, and the fact that women are dying, it's insane to me. It needs to be looked into, because no one's advocating for this. Why would Republicans be okay with women dying when Republicans are the main ones fighting, against abortion in order to have more babies? If anything, I feel like Republicans are really striving to protect the life of the mother and the life of the baby. And even Trump says it himself. He is fully for abortion in terms of rape, incest, and the life of the mother. And it's apparent that these doctors are not concerned about the life of the mother, and these cases need to be looked into. And I want to look at one of these cases with you that has been very prevalent, and I've seen it around constantly.
A pregnant Texas teenager died an agonizing death after doctors refused to abort her fetus, even after she began to miscarry.
Okay, real quick, I have to highlight something about this video. This video is from Daily Mail. It will be linked below. The audio that is attached to this video outlining, it's so despicable. The music that is on this video talking about this pregnant teenager who has passed away, and I quote, is scary and mysterious horror background music. You pair that with the eerie storytelling, like haunted house male voice they got on this track to do the voiceover. This is quite literally psychological manipulation. Is the story real? Yes, and we're going to dive into the story, but off the bat, I want us all to acknowledge and recognize that they are manipulating you psychologically to increase the emotions of fear and anxiety. That is what's happening within this first 5 seconds. We're making that very clear, but let's go on.
18-year-old Neve Crane woke up with nausea and vomiting on the day of her baby shower. She rushed to the hospital but was briefly discharged, despite suffering from life-threatening sepsis, as her fetus still had a heartbeat, ruling out an abortion under Texas law.
That should make your red flags go up, because first off, we have to acknowledge that mainstream media isn't always right. The news isn't always correct. We know that to be true, okay? We've seen what it was like during 2020. We've seen the amount of lies that the media lies about. They're not always true. But to say that this hospital turned away a mother, someone actively going through sepsis, with a fetus inside of them, which that is the life of the mother was clearly in danger. And Trump, every Republican, I think all of us can agree when it comes to the life of the mother, they need to be protected. And what happened in this case, it's clear, it's nothing to do with that Texas law. These are bad doctors.
Just hours later, the teenager was rushed back to the hospital by her family due to the bleeding, with Crane so weak she couldn't walk.
Do you hear this music and the way they're phrasing the story? It is manipulation, and now we're going to get into an article about that, because real quick, I want to show y'all how they're twisting things. What is the right saying? Family states that Nevaeh's death is being used politically and is claiming that the hospitals are responsible. That is what the family is saying, that she's being used politically and that it quite literally was medical negligence. And what is the left saying? 18-year-old pregnant woman in Texas died due to delays in medical care that may have been influenced by Texas restrictive abortion laws. Again, nothing is making sense about this case, because if a woman is going into sepsis, they are actively dying, which automatically makes it okay to take that fetus out. I don't know what is happening in Texas, but it has nothing to do with abortion laws and it's medical negligence, and it needs to be looked at. Even the family is saying that. Trump is against abortion. Okay, let's see what Trump has to say about abortion for himself.
And like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother. Strongly believe it. You know, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't. It's a very small percentage, but you have to follow your heart.
Are you going to keep telling yourself what you want to think, or like keep listening to these influencers who are telling you and scaring you into what President Trump is going to do, or even Kamala or mainstream media? Are you actively going to go to the source and figure out what that person is saying? Is it harder for women to get abortion care in certain states? Yes. Now, is that voting against a woman's right? Debatable, because again, it goes back to liberals wanting more freedom for the women's body and conservatives wanting freedom for the baby's body. And that's what makes this conversation so convoluted and so deep and never ending, because off the bat you're talking about two different things. And there is a little nuance in this, because no matter what, if a woman's pregnant and you leave her alone, a baby is coming out of there. That's just what it is. That's just the truth. The same way you put cake batter in the oven and you let it wait and you open up the oven and then a cake comes out, it's the same way you get this clump of cells and you leave that clump of cells alone and boom, you have a intact, living and breathing human being. So it's apparent off the bat that conservatives are more focused on this living human being and the liberals are more concerned about this clump of cells, when there's a lot of science at play and things that go on in between that. You know, we hear, I want the right to have an abortion no matter what. I hear you, and I understand you want the freedom to do whatever you want with your body, and this isn't me, you know, claiming like my stance, but it's a fact, it's the truth that your own body doesn't even align with that. As a woman, one of the most beautiful and magical things on this planet, responsible for every human being on this planet being alive, your existence alone comes with the responsibility to guard your womb and that incredible right and that incredible feature that you have to create life. And it says something as a society that we have women more focused on the ability to terminate that life rather than guarding the right to even create it in the first place. Because I understand if you get pregnant, you want that right and that ability to say, you know what, I don't want to be pregnant anymore. I got school to go to. I got to go to work. I can't afford this. I don't want to put my baby through this. And you want to end it. The main problem that most people have and some states have is that thing that you want to end is a life. It goes back to how, you know, women's rights and women's bodies, no one's talking about the woman's body. They're talking about the baby's body. 9 times out of 10, when you go up to your pregnant friend, you're not asking them, how are you doing? You may be asking them how you're doing, but you ask, how's the baby? How are you feeling being pregnant? Because you understand there's something in there. In half these states, if someone assaults or murders a pregnant woman, they're getting double homicide because there's 2 lives. But if that same woman goes into an abortion clinic and terminates the baby, it's just called an abortion. So there's so much in this conversation. There's so much at play here. So it's not that cut and dry as people make it out to be. And a note to the lesbians out there, I'm sorry. The sheer amount of lesbians I know that are upset about this, and even Kamala Harris putting in one of her LGBTQ flyers talking about protecting abortion rights. No lesbians getting pregnant, like at all. And if a lesbian is getting pregnant, it's by design, paid for, and want to, like what? And I'm not including, you know, the fact that lesbians still can get raped, but I mean abortion, you can still get one if you're raped. So I'm excluding that right now. Because even then, if there is a lesbian that is pregnant, 9 times out of 10 is through IVF, of which Trump protects and wants funded by the government.
I'm announcing today in a major statement that under the Trump administration, your government will pay for, or your insurance company will be mandated to pay for, all costs associated with IVF treatment, fertilization for women.
So when I see these posts of people being scared about, I can't get IVF and I'm terrified of this. Trump's for IVF and wants it to be paid by the government. Are there some states where this whole IVF thing has been coming up into question? I believe so. And even then, Trump put out a statement of being against that. So this all goes back to, going to the source itself and not paying attention to what you're seeing and hearing online. Go directly to who they're talking about. Because again, if my friend comes to me and is talking crap about you, I'm not just gonna cut you off and then go with the friend. No, I'm gonna confront you. I'm gonna pull up. So if someone's talking about Trump, I'm not just gonna listen to that person and then discredit Trump. I'm gonna go to Trump himself, which is why I try so hard to put everything I can into these videos and show you that I'm not talking. Like, this is hit from him. And while we're on this topic of women's rights and protecting women's rights, and we don't want our rights stripped away, I'd like to draw attention to how Democrats view women's rights. Because it's apparent when collectively on the left, at least when looking into the laws and things that are really being pushed for, women are so concerned about Trump taking away their rights and stripping away women's rights. But what most fail to realize is that the last 4 or 5 years, women's rights have been stripped away from us right in front of our very eyes. You say that you are for women's rights, but if I ask you what a woman is, I get no answer.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No,
Yeah.
I can't.
We celebrated this person, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Supreme Court Justice, for being the first Black woman in the Supreme Court, but said person can't even define what a woman is. And if you can't define something, it has no grounding, it has no understanding. You say that you're for women's reproductive rights, but if I say only women get pregnant, I'm told I'm being hateful towards the trans community.
Professor Bridges, you said several times, you've used a phrase, I want to make sure I understand what you mean by it. You've referred to people with a capacity for pregnancy. Would that be women?
Many women, cis women, have the capacity for pregnancy. Many cis women do not have the capacity for pregnancy. There are also trans men who are capable of pregnancy, as well as non-binary people who are capable of pregnancy.
So this isn't really a women's rights issue.
We can recognize that this impacts women while also recognizing that it impacts other groups. Those things are not mutually exclusive, Senator Hawley.
Oh, so your view is that the core of this right then is about what?
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic, and it opens up trans people to violence by not recognizing that.
Wow.
By saying women get pregnant, that opens up a door for being violent towards the trans community. And notice how that person kept saying cis women. Like, women's rights isn't even a thing. It's cis women, it's trans women, it's this woman, that woman. There's no just women anymore. Because again, it goes back, if I ask what a woman is, no one can tell me. You say you're for women's rights and I say okay, then yeah, only women should be allowed in women's locker rooms. I'm being told I'm hateful towards the trans community.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and only ladies and gentlemen it is and shall always be. I am an 18-year-old high school student and wanted to take this time to bring to your attention the current issue with biological men claiming they are women and in turn truly believing that they are entitled to use women's spaces. There was an incident within our district that occurred recently regarding a transgender woman who really is a biological man having an altercation with a young woman at MLK High School. It was infuriating when I had seen the video on social media, but what was detrimental to this is the fact that this man is and has been using the women's restroom and locker room.
You have guys in high school putting on lipstick, saying they're women, and walking into women's locker rooms and women's bathrooms and causing fights and making women uncomfortable. Again, we say we're for women's rights, but we don't even know what a woman is, and biological women are being stomped over left and right. You say you're for women's rights, but if I say yes, we are for women's rights, we should protect women in sports, then I'm being told I'm being hateful again to the trans community.
Comes as several women's volleyball players have forfeited or intend to forfeit their match against San Jose State over a transgender player on the team.
You have women on a women's volleyball team banding together and saying, you know what? I love this sport. I love playing this, but we're going to sit this game out. We're not going to play because I don't want to play this biological man on this other team who's going to win and beat us. Again, we're for women's rights, But when we're ignoring biological women who are uncomfortable with the amount of suppression that they're going through. This is one case of many instances where what I think is a woman, a biological woman, being highly uncomfortable and having to fight and play sports against a biological male who is identifying as a woman, as if we don't have women's sports for a reason. If there's no difference between men and women, why do we have a women's league for everything? Why not just have everything be together? Why not? Why not just have football and basketball and soccer and tennis and like all these different things? Why do we have women's versions to begin with? Ask ourselves is why do we have women's versions? You say that again that you're for women's rights, but if I say I find it unacceptable that you can have a biological male in college put on lipstick, says they identify as a woman, then by law, like Democrat pushed laws, now that guy that identifies as a girl is being roomed with another girl. I'm being told I'm hateful towards the trans community.
I love it because I would definitely fit in with that.
Courtney Greco identifies as genderqueer, neither male nor female, and it's a relief for them. Florida Gulf Coast University now does too. The university tells NBC2 they will accommodate students who identify as transgender, letting them live in the dorm they identify with.
I think it's important, and it sends a message from the administration to the students that you're welcome here.
If you are in college, you're a college girl, are you fine with a frat bro putting on lipstick, saying they're a woman, and being roomed with you? Not that and people are like, this isn't happening. It's happening. Quite frankly, I respect women enough to not erase them. There's a sharp rise in biological women being uncomfortable with the sheer amount of biological men that are identifying as women. I'm sorry, to me, and I felt like everyone else, being a woman is not an identity. It's an existence. It's a real thing. And it's a lived experience that I will never be able to relate with. And I respect women enough to never identify as them and put myself in their shoes. And if there is a trans person doing that, they are trans for a reason. Most trans women are accepted in society, and it's fine, and they have rights. So again, it goes all the way back to the beginning. How are we fighting to protect women's rights when you can't even tell me what a woman is? LGBTQ plus rights. Here's a picture of my friends John and Dan at their gay wedding at Trump's house. Yes, quite literally, Donald Trump hosts gay weddings at his house. We are privileged here in America. I am not living in the same America that my uncle who died of AIDS in the 80s is living in. And it's a disservice to me to act like I'm going back to his time or I am being treated like him when I am quite literally his dream from both a racial standpoint and a sexuality standpoint. There is nothing a straight person can do that I can't. And we have a lot of rights that are afforded to us that gays are not dealing, that gays here aren't dealing with like they are in other countries, like being stoned to death or hell, even being thrown off rooftops. And understanding this fact, knowing what's going on in other countries regarding being gay, here's Trump's response to it all.
As we defend American values, we affirm the right of all people to live in dignity. For this reason, my administration is working with other nations to stop criminalizing of homosexuality, and we stand in solidarity with LGBTQ people who live in countries that punish, jail, or execute individuals based upon sexual orientation.
So this seems like an incredibly horrible homophobic person to be a president and is pushing and advocating for other countries to not be homophobic. It makes me so sad that the LGBTQ crisis calls and the call centers, the self-delete lines, is skyrocketing. It concerns me that there's all these photographers offering up deals for gay couples so they can hurry up and get married before Trump comes in office. It saddens me that there's gay people that think they're gonna be illegal, being in the United States, when the man himself is trying to decriminalize being gay across the globe and has gay weddings at his house. Again, it goes back to being manipulated. I don't know what else, I don't know what other way to put it other than mainstream media lying and majority of Americans and Donald Trump being elected again, seeing through that. Because again, you had Kamala on mainstream media side, and then you had Trump on independent media side. Why is that? Because when you have all these independent journalists and also independent media looking into the facts, it doesn't line up with what they're pushing and saying. I have no idea why any gay person is terrified now that Donald Trump is about to be president again. We've already had it for 4 years. So I don't know why gays are scared again, especially with how much he has provided and done for gays in the past few years. Like when Trump says fake news, there's fake news everywhere, the man ain't lying. If you're gay, just look around you, you're fine. I promise you, you're fine. He's going to appoint a judge that is going to remove the rights for gays to get married. Again, I genuinely do not see that happening, as he's throwing gay weddings at his house. And that even funnels into things that I've seen about, interracial marriage is going to go away, and all these different Supreme Court rulings are just going to be gone and gone. Because again, people always bring up Roe v. Wade and use that as a basis as to why all these other things are going to be looked at. When we forget off the bat, we have to acknowledge that Roe v. Wade and abortion in itself is such a complex topic, because the liberals are talking about the women's body and the conservatives are talking about the baby's body. It's so complex, and it's unlike any other cultural, social issue that we're dealing with right now. There is no grounding that Trump is going to get rid of gay marriage. Are there some Republicans who enjoy that idea that yes, gays shouldn't be able to get married and gays shouldn't be able to get adopted? Yeah. Are some of these ideas expressed in a document called Project 2025, which we're going to get into later? Yes. Are there Republicans that hate me and my existence just because I'm a gay male? Yes. And guess what? There are thousands and thousands of Democrats who hate me, who sends me threats, who stalks me and leaves messages on my front door, all because I do not fit the ideological box that they put me in because I am black and because I am gay. Because it just goes back to the left. They're more concerned with diversity of representation instead of diversity of thought. Because the second I think for myself, the second I'm voicing my opinions and some of my concerns, oh, I'm being canceled. Oh, I'm hateful. Oh, I'm getting all the threats. Oh, I'm getting stalked. Oh, I'm getting it all. So hey, guess what? At this rate, I don't care what anybody thinks. There's people on the right that hate me for being me, and there's people on the left that hate me for being me. So that's not my concerns right now. Because again, at the end of the day, my existence is going to piss somebody off on the left and the right side. It just doesn't matter. He's against trans care. If you are a trans adult, you are fine. I'm not, again, as someone that's more center right and in this right circle, I'm not saying anything that is against trans adults. Again, are there some people who don't like trans adults on the right? Yes, that is a thing. But for majority of the time, the right is okay with trans adults when they just mind their business as adults and they do their own thing. When we involve children, that's where a lot of this stems from, and that is the main concern for a lot of the Republicans. So enough looking at everybody else. Let's go to Trump's website for ourselves together and let's see if this is a big issue. So off the bat, we're going to go through these together. Number 1, revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender affirming care, a process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutilating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Okay, I think that's fine. If we are all on board that a 17-year-old girl can't consent to have sex with an adult, then I feel like we should be on the same page that a 12 or 13-year-old girl can't consent to alter their body for life. That's not being hateful. That honestly is respecting the tears and the cries of those who have detransitioned as much as they could because they went through transition when they were a minor. This is all that's protecting. It is protecting children and understanding that they don't know what their mind is right now, but when they're adult, they can do what they want. If we all agree that a 12-year-old can't smoke, they can't drink, they can't drive, they can't vote, they can't have sex, then why are we all of a sudden advocating for them the right to change their sex for life because they know who they are? Are there some trans kids who know that they are trans? Yes, it is out there, it exists. But we need to wait for them to be 18 to do anything medical. That's it, medical. 2, sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. Ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpaying dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures. There is more context that needs to go into this. We probably should understand if this is still referring back to number 1 and the kids, or if this is including all, even trans adults. Because as a trans adult, you should be able to do what you want. Actually, pause. Because if I can't use taxpayer dollars to get laser eye surgery, or I can't use no. If you want trans surgery, you gotta pay for that yourself. That's fine. see, I'm going through the motions too. That's fine. I don't want my tax-paying dollars going to someone else's elective surgery. If tax-paying dollars aren't going to me getting, my teeth fixed, getting my eyes fixed, getting, all these different cosmetic things, and why should we be? That's fine. If you're trans, stack your paper up and get your procedure yourself. Next. 4, pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. As a child, I think it's fine. I'm getting a little, admittedly, I'm trying to acknowledge my biases and feelings and emotions. I'm getting a little frustrated right now because we're talking about children, minors. Minors should be protected. Why are we fighting? Why are we arguing? This is stupid. Why are we fighting about this? Why are we arguing about not wanting children to go through sexual mutilation? And if you're saying it's not happening, then why does this matter? If you're saying it's not happening, then ensuring it's not happening shouldn't be a problem, right? That's just me. 5, declare that any hospital or healthcare provider participating in the chemical or physical mutilation of, again, minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program. I agree. These hospitals and healthcare providers we shouldn't be paying for the mutilation of minors. And again, if you're so hung up on it's not happening, then none of this should matter, just to confirm and make sure that it's not happening. 6, support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children. I think that's right. If every doctor who performed on a trans child was liable for them up until the age of they're an adult, or even if they were 25, you wouldn't see these surgeries happen at all. If these doctors were held liable in the event that these person transitioned or they were wrong, detransitioned and they were wrong, we wouldn't see it happening at all. 7, direct the Department of Justice to investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions to get rich, at the expense of vulnerable patients. We know this to be true for the people who have detransitioned and had their stories be heard. You want to hear about queer stories? Listen to the queer people who are detransitioned, illegally marketed hormones or puberty blockers, which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. Come on now. I don't see a problem with that at all. Covered up horrific long-term side effects, because even someone like Chloe Cole, she talked about all the side effects that she has from her transition as a minor. Her voice matters too. There's so much context. This is why I love long-form video, because there's so much that we need to be diving into about this. And I really hope you're watching this, you're sitting down eating a meal, you're chatting, you're in bed, you're with your family, whatever it may be. This is the work that I do all the time. I'm diving into these articles. And for this topic, I got to take you right here, because there's people literally deleting them. I'm not, it's so sad. It blows my mind that there's people gone right now since Trump was elected because they're fearful of their lives when it's fine. It's fine. 8, direct the Department of Education to inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they'll be faced with severe consequences, include potential civil rights violation for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding. Again, it's regarding minors. It's fine. 9, as a part of a new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with positive education. The nuclear family, that's chill. That's probably the one thing I'm like, are we going to include, 2 dads who adopt a kid or 2 moms who adopt a kid? Because there are different unique families and they need to be respected, even single dads, single moms, or the households that have like the grandma, their aunties living. There's more than just a nuclear family, and half the people in a nuclear family, they're divorced. So that already needs to be taken a look at, especially coming from the man that has how many different baby mamas and wives. I'm keeping it real here. Let's talk about it. The roles of mothers and fathers, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. And celebrating rather than embracing the things that make men and women different and unique. We are different and unique. I don't know. I don't see a problem with that at all. And I think if you're a trans adult, if you're over 18, you're fine. I don't see anything wrong with anything that we just talked about because it all has to do with minors. He's going to ban books. Well, I bought all the books that they've talked about banning, and we're going to go through some things right here. This video may get demonetized at this point. I don't even care because I just want to spread the truth about what's going on. This would involve into hip thrusting while thinking of my latest gay ship. And yeah, I don't know. That's one book. That one's genderqueer. This book is gay. Let's read this book. A good handy is all about the wrist action. Rub the head of his back and forth with your hand. Try different speeds and pressures until he responds positively. A bad handy is grasping the and shaking it like a ketchup bottle. Let's keep going. He's pulling my t-shirt off and laughing when I can't undo his shirt buttons. He's undoing my belt. I'm reaching into his bedside drawer for a condom. We're kissing again. We're rolling over. Obviously, you can see where this is going. We can keep going. There's, I don't know. I wonder what he's doing. I wonder what she's doing. So it's such in bad faith what people do when the left and the left-leaning LGBTQ community, they're just like, oh, they want to ban books. This is horrible. Gay this, gay that. Have you ever bothered to look into the books? Have you ever bothered, instead of listening to anyone you're seeing online, before getting your emotions so invested and involved and thinking the right is so against gay people and gay rights and they want to ban all the books, have you bothered buying the book for yourself, opening it up and reading it? Just want to ask. Immigration. There is a strong difference between illegal immigrants and legal immigrants. And when Donald Trump is referring to immigration, he's always talking about illegal immigration. Keyword, illegal. None of us, we can't just hop on a plane, go to London, and then live there. And that's our new home. That's I'm a citizen now. It doesn't work like that. You can't just walk into some countries and say you're a citizen and that's that. Half the time when you're traveling abroad, you got to figure out, half the time they really want to know, when are you coming back? Where's your flight info for coming back? What is your plan? You got a visa, you got this, that. There's things in process to prevent illegal immigration from happening. At that, it is so easy to sneak in through our southern border that there are Chinese people, Russian people, Ukraine, the Indian people flying into Mexico, Honduras, Nicaragua, all these places and coming up through our southern border because they know that's how easy it is and all the benefits they're going to get. We're all for helping. When we're sending these big aid packages to Ukraine and to Israel, what do you think the money's doing? It's going to protect their border because they're at war. So why is it all of a sudden racist or harmful for us, the United States, to protect our own border from the war that we're having with the cartel at the southern border? It doesn't add up. Trump's claims about Mexicans are racist. No, they're not. The context is not there. It's all wrong. It's all misinformation. It's fake news. Fake news. That's what it is. He's not calling all Mexicans rapists and bad people. He's referring to the illegal people, most of the Mexican coming into the southern border and doing what? all the things the local communities, the border towns are facing.
More than 80 migrants with previous criminal convictions were caught trying to cross into the United States illegally in the El Paso sector. According to Border Patrol, a pair of migrants from El Salvador who had ties to gangs were wanted for homicide. Another migrant who was also wanted for murder was sent back to Mexico. CBP says that many of the migrants are aggravated felons, sex offenders, child predators, drug traffickers, and drunk drivers.
It's exactly why all these border towns have flipped red. They need help. They want help, and they're not racist for wanting it. Like, honestly, to sit here and call Hispanic people racist for wanting more border security and control in their hometown at the southern border is crazy. He's going to mass deport people. Like mentioned before, if you ever traveled outside of the country, you're typically asked to complete forms about where you're going, why, how long you're there, when you're coming back, what's your passport information, all these different things. Because you can't just go to another country, and if you do, what are they going to do? Deport you. They're going to deport you or put you in jail, one of the two. This isn't some revolutionary, racist, or unordinary thing. It's the standard across the board. You can't illegally stay in another country, so he's doing what every other country would do and does to people like this: deport them. If you come in the right way, which needs to be, addressed, we need to address that. I'm going to admit that. But if you came here illegally and you don't have papers and you've taken advantage of the United States system, then he's going to do what any other country would do. I'm sorry. But if you're a citizen of the United States, you're fine. You have nothing to worry about. And if you have family that is undocumented, then there are some things that need to be talked about and addressed. If you're a DACA recipient and your parents brought you here illegally, there's some nuance and context that needs to be addressed. And I'm sure there's going to be a big discussion about that when that time comes. But something needs to happen to get control, because I guarantee each and every one of you, if each and every one of you that voted for Kamala Harris, if it was mandated for you, like, okay, we want to keep these people here, we don't want to mass deport, take one in. Would you? Would you? Right now, tonight, this very second, if you are so concerned about these mass deportations, are you willing to take one into your home? He's going to get rid of birthright citizenship. The United Kingdom, India, Japan, Germany, Thailand, France, Italy, Colombia, Spain, Ukraine, Australia, Sweden, Israel, they all don't have birthright citizenship. Again, this is not some racist or some unordinary thing. I personally never understood birthright citizenship. It was so weird, especially given all the other countries don't do it. It makes no sense to me that someone can not be a citizen, have their baby here, and then the baby's a citizen. That doesn't make no sense to me, especially right now in 2024. And apparently it doesn't make sense to all the other countries people love to protect, fight for, and visit. It's like, on this topic of immigration, it frustrates so many people that America, our own backyard, is dealing with so much: the inflation, the infrastructure, the homelessness, the drugs. There's so much that needs to be addressed and fixed. But all of a sudden, we got all this money to take in the people who are illegally coming here. Booking them a flight.
Border Patrol agents told us asylum seekers are waiting at the airport day and night to hop on flights.
Sending them to a 5-star hotel in a nice city.
The Roosevelt is no longer a hotel. National Guard has taken over.
And then giving them 3 meals a day.
It's as part of a $53 million program, giving the average family of 4 more than $1,400 per month.
And in some states, health insurance.
As of yesterday, California has added a health care benefit for migrants. They are now going to extend free health care to migrants between the ages of 26 and 49. That's going to cover 700,000 additional people and cost the state $2.6 billion each year.
The people are tired. I'm sorry. The people are tired. It makes no sense to me. People want this fixed, and people do not have a problem with this plan. Hence the sheer amount of votes that Trump has received. There may be some Republicans who don't like how harsh his plan is or want some things addressed. I get that, because again, it goes back to not all of them think the same, but it for sure needs to be addressed and fixed. Education. Let's get right into his plans on his website for education. Right here, just like the last time. Number 1, cut federal funding for any school or program that pushes critical race theory, gender ideology, or other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. I'll be the first to tell you, as again, my lived experience, we have to listen to Black queer voices. right? As a black queer voice, this is not a problem to me. The things that I see in critical race theory, I do not like, I do not agree with. There are people in 2024 acting like I am living in the same day and age as my ancestors, as my grandpa, and that is not true. I agree, we need to be teaching American history, including black history, and the things that have happened to black people so we can acknowledge how much progress we have made. But the things that I see in critical race theory, demonizing white people for merely existing and creating this inferior victimhood complex onto our black youth, I do not like and I do not agree with. Because I said it before and I'll say it again, because it is something that keeps me going and is a part of my lineage and my story. I am living quite literally in the deep south, maybe 20, 30 feet above countless dead bodies of my ancestors who were slaves. I'm above them, living their wildest dreams. And you have me messed up to really sit here and teach the new black youth that, you know what, you have to fight 3 times as hard as the white man and this and that and race this, race that. How about we just stop? Gender ideology, I'm fine with that. We don't need to be teaching that in schools. There's no, like the books. There's no need to be teaching a little 6-year-old boy that he could be a girl. There's no reason to be fearing any of this, y'all. Other inappropriate racial, sexual, political content on our children. We just went through the most inappropriate stuff. I read it for you. I spent my money on it. We've gone through it. Number 2, direct the Departments of Justice and Education to open civil rights investigations into any school district that has engaged in race-based discrimination, including discrimination against Asian Americans. Yes, because Asian Americans are so smart because of their family structures and their own cultural stuff they got going on that they have to work harder to get into certain schools. That is actually happening. Yes, we are discriminating against Asians being smart, and we need to accept and give these handouts to all the black kids and the white kids, whoever it may be, because the Asians are too smart. I can make a whole nother separate video on that, and I will, so be sure to subscribe, but that is a thing that's happening. 3, because the Marxism being taught in schools is aggressively hostile to Judeo-Christian teachings, aggressively pursue potential violations of the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause of the Constitution. This one, I don't agree with and we'll definitely have to look at, because half the Judeo-Christian people I know ain't that. Let's keep it a buck. I mean, I'm all for striving for it as someone that's non-Christian. Like, there's a lot of good teachings in it and how society probably should act and run. And I don't think Marxism is definitely that. I do not like Marxism at all. So I agree with that. But how this is laid out, I'm not a big fan. But that should be adjusted. I would go with that. 4, find and remove the radicals who have infiltrated the Federal Department of Health and get Congress to reaffirm the president's ability to remove I'm honest on this channel when I can't pronounce words. I already have a list. I'm not even gonna attempt it. Employees from the job, fine. We remove spies. I mean, we remove all these different people. I'm very curious what the radicals may be. It'll be case by case, but let's get into it. 5, veto the sinister effort to weaponize civics education. Yeah, it probably pairs with 4. There is some interesting things that are being taught in schools that are really radicalizing our youth into hating the layout and the style of our country. Are we perfect? No, but there is something to be said for the sheer amount of people out there that are just misled and think that we don't live in a great nation. 6, keep men out of women's sports. We talked about that. That's fine. 7, create a new credentialing body to certify teachers who embrace patriotic values, understand that their job is to not indoctrinate children, but to educate them. Cool with me. I see nothing wrong with that. 8, implement massing funding preferences and favorable treatment for all states and school districts that make the following historic reforms in education. Abolish teacher tenure for grades K through 12 and adopt merit pay. I'm fine with that. Just because you've been there a long time doesn't mean you're a great teacher. Merit pay is a way to go. If you're a great teacher, you deserve to get paid a lot. Full stop. If you're, it's like performance. It's like an actual job. Like, if you're a good teacher and your classroom grades reflect that, then you deserve raises and merit pay. 10, drastically cut the number of school administrators, including DEI bureaucracy. I agree. Why are we, in some of our school districts, the kids can't even read and write? There's something massively going wrong and it needs to be addressed. 11, adopt a parental bill of rights that include a complete curriculum transparency and form of universal school choice. Dope. You should be able to pick where your student goes to school, and you should also know what is being taught and what's going on, because there's a lot of things that we find on TikTok, honestly, that these teachers are teaching the kids, but the kids don't even know, like the parents don't even know what's going on in the schools. There needs to be more transparency going on there. And 12, implement the direct election of school principals by the parents as the ultimate form of local control. Lol, there's a dash. But yeah, I agree with that too. So all in all, when it comes to education, we've gone through this. I think it's fine. There was the Judeo-Christian thing I think should be looked at more. But other than that, I mean, y'all, I promise you, there's not much you have to be worried about with this Trump presidency, I swear. And I know that there's a lot of people right now that are very concerned with Project 2025.
Okay, you have the radical left and you have the radical right. And they come up with this, I don't know what the hell it is, it's Project 25. He's involved in Project, and then they read some of the things and they are extreme. I mean, they're seriously extreme. But I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it.
If a group of friends put together a document and said, hey, this is the list that I want you to do, is that your list now, or is that still your friend's list? Because that's Project 2025. It's not fair to project that document to Trump when there's no proof, there's nothing out there that Trump is directly related to Project 2025 and directly wants to promote it and hype it up and make everything come to an existence, because we know he's not going to do and pass everything that he wants to do. We experienced that in the first term. There's no clips, no videos, no nothing of Trump directly co-signing and admitting to and accepting and endorsing Project 2025. What is it? What I get from Project 2025 when I see that, I see it's a document, a wish list from a bunch of Black, white, and Hispanic conservatives, and some very, very great ideas of things that they want to do, and some very, very horrible ideas of things that they want to do. That's it. It's a wish list. I'm not terrified of it. I know that there are a bunch of Republicans who don't agree with everything in Project 2025, because again, it's not some big monolithic groupthink ideology the same way not everybody on the left thinks the same way. Any claims that Trump and Vance are going to enact everything that's in Project 2025 is misinformation. Quite literally misinformation. It's false and it's propaganda. All the Instagram graphics, the Kamala speeches, no one has footage to pin Trump directly to it. The only connection is that there's a bunch of people who know Trump or worked for Trump that got together and is a part of that group that put that wish list together. That's it. Again, a wish list of there's some great ideas in there and there's some horrible ideas in there, much like every presidency. When it comes to Trump's plans and what he wants to do, I'm going to Trump himself and I'm seeing what plans he has laid out, as we've done in this video. I'm going to his website. I'm going to Agenda 47, which is Trump's plans, and figuring out what is his wish list. What are some things that Trump has laid out that Trump wants to do? That's the source of truth. Project 2025 is not the source of truth for Trump. Agenda 47 is, and he stands by that. He says that, and I think it's respectable to put him on. Like, just look at what he's saying. When Kamala made her statements, I went to Kamala. I went to the rally to hear them from her. I'm not depending on CNN. I'm not depending on Instagram. I'm not depending on Vox. I'm going straight to Kamala to hear from her what she thinks and what she's putting out. I didn't go to the right or the fringe left and say like, what are some things that Kamala wants to put out? No, I waited until there were actual values and principles and ideas on her website to understand what it is that she wants to do. And I'm doing the same for Trump. My advice: in the midst of fear, facts are your friends. Go to the source. Don't go to your group chat. Don't go to your favorite political page. Don't go to your favorite influencer. Go to the source yourself and figure out what is actually going on and what is actually being said and what is the full context and everything that is going on. Because the second you do that for yourself, you're just going to see a lot. You're going to see a lot about how much you've been misled and ill-informed. What I'm seeing online, what we're all seeing online, and the fear being spread, the propaganda being spread, it's so unfortunate and it makes me sad because it's all valid. Those are real feelings being expressed. Those are real pain. And I'm not talking about the people like, oh, cut this person off. You don't deserve to be talking to them, which is ironic because this is a party of love and acceptance and equality. But all of a sudden, you want to cut off somebody who thinks differently than you? Interesting. You have been lied to, honestly. You've been lied to, you've been gaslit, and you've been taken advantage of. All for the sake of getting a vote. The fake news, it's real. There's actually fake news out there. It's real. It's unfortunate that it's real, but you have to acknowledge that, and you have to do your due diligence to seek out the information for yourself. Mainstream media would do whatever they can to gaslight you, manipulate you, and control you. And damn it, you're bigger than that, and you're stronger than that, and I know you can do it for yourself. And again, this isn't to say that Republicans don't gaslight people either, or they've never lied, or they're all perfect. No, because the difference with that is that I'm fully aware that they do that. I'm fully aware that I have to be on guard for both parties. I acknowledge my biases. I acknowledge that I may not want to hear certain things, or I may want to hear certain things because they confirm the things that I'm thinking. But I have to fact check it all because I'm not going to allow anyone to control my mind or tell me how to think or what to think. And you have that in you as well, to not be led blindly by mainstream media, by any left-wing politician, by maybe even me. I'm just here to show you what the man's saying and why you probably shouldn't be afraid, because I'm personally not afraid of Trump, and I know a lot of people who aren't. But the main goal that I want for you is to fully think for yourself and not be led by the clickbait, by the titles, by the commentators. I want you to be led by you. Like I said in the beginning of this whole election cycle, I don't care if you vote for Kamala, I don't care if you vote for Trump, as long as you know why you're voting for them and you feel confident in your ability to stand firm on that and back it up and really have the facts and receipts. So you know what? These are my reasonings why I feel this way and this way and this way, and that's it. Cool. That's all I want for you. Taking back your power is monumental, and not living in fear. It's sad to me that it's like, oh, the LGBTQ community, the party of love and acceptance and equality, it's so joyous. Why are they so depressed? Why? Why is the left so sad, so depressed, and all these different medications, so unhappy? But they claim to be the party of happiness and love and equality and so much pride and joy. Ask yourself why a good chunk of them feel this way. It's very interesting when you get down to it. If you are a woman, sit down with the woman who voted for Trump and hear why. If you're black, sit down with the black person who voted for Trump and hear why. If you're gay, sit down with the gay person who voted for Trump and hear why. If you're Hispanic, sit down with a Hispanic person who voted for Trump and hear why. If identity politics and someone in your identity in your group, if that means something to you, hearing from a black woman, hearing from a gay person because you're gay and having that same identity that matters to you, then go listen to them. There's no wrong in that. Just ask yourself why. Ask anybody. If you're open to hearing out everybody, ask anybody why they voted for Trump. Maybe it was all the COVID mandates. Maybe it was the countless wars. Maybe it was the economy. Maybe it was little kids being mutilated. Maybe it was men identifying as women and beating them in sports. Maybe it was illegal immigrants getting benefits while hurricane victims struggled. Maybe it was over $500 billion just created out of thin air to give to all these other countries. Maybe, just maybe, people have had enough of the BS and they see right through it. Genuinely, I think all this outrage and fear and misinformation should just calm down. Go seek it out for yourself, because personally, as someone who voted for Trump, I'm not concerned about him being a president, and I'm not in fear of him being a president, especially being black, especially being gay. I'm not concerned about that man being president. After everything we just laid out, going through all his policies, the biggest fears we've seen go on, I'm not fearful of it. I'm genuinely not. So I hope that this was meaningful to you, impactful for you. Share this with anybody that may resonate with this. I really do hope it reaches somebody that needed to hear this, and you feel a little bit better about a Trump presidency, because again, we've already had him for 4 years and we were fine. So that's my thoughts on that. If you're still here, thankful for you. Be sure to like the video, subscribe. It helps the channel grow a ton. I'm very thankful for you all being here. I'm very thankful for the growth of this channel. But I know that was a lot. It's a lot of information to process and really sit on and think about. So I'll let you do that. And just do know that in this life, you control more than you know. Do not allow yourself to be led by any mainstream media, corporation, politician, school, influencer. You think for yourself. Being ignorant to topics should inspire you, because it just means you lack knowledge in it, and now you get to learn something new. That's inspiring. It's hopeful. And I just really leaving this video, I just want you to really think for yourself. I want you to feel empowered in your own thoughts and beliefs and understand why you feel the way you feel. You can achieve anything you put your mind to. If you put your mind to it, you work hard and you persistently go after that goal, you will achieve it. So that being said, I'll let you skedaddle. I love you a ton, and I'll catch you in the next video. Deuces.